8 Maids a-Milking, performed by Kaitlyn Craft.
The 8th day rose with a pallor that did not belong to morning. Light slid across Marrowbone village in a thin, diluted wash, as though the sky itself had been bled. The dark star still lingered above the rooftops, a bruise upon the heavens, pulsing faintly as if in amusement. Every villager felt its gaze, though none dared look long enough to confirm their suspicion. By this point in the Midwinter cycle, the people of Marrowbone village moved with a reverent exhaustion, hollow-eyed yet fervent. The previous day's swan drowning had left its waterlogged scent draped over the square, but today demanded something far older, far deeper. The rite of the Maids. Long ago, before the antlered god's name was spoken in hushed, cracked whispers, the rite had been one of simple fertility. 8 milkmaids would bring cream to the winter table and offer it to the land spirits. But that was before Skelmarok stirred beneath the loam, before the standing stones began to sweat, before the first watcher died screaming at the church door, his blood forming a perfect ring around him. The rite had changed. It always changed. Today, 8 young women stood at the edge of the village green, each adorned in white shifts embroidered with ochre symbols, loops and spirals copied from the wet stones at the shoreline, sigils never meant for human cloth. Their faces were painted as well, streaked with veined patterns resembling the cracks seen in ancient eggshells. The villagers gathered in a semicircle around them, murmuring prayers that sounded more like pleas. At the center of the green lay the trough, carved generations ago from a single block of petrified wood. It was large enough to hold a calf, or a person, if one folded correctly. Its interior shone darkly, slick with the residue of rites past. Beside it waited the hillwife, the midwinter priestess, robes hanging heavy with charms made of knucklebone and tarnished brass. Her eyes were unfocused, as though gazing through the world rather than at it. "Bring forth the provender," she croaked. 4 men dragged forward a mound of swollen goat's udders, collected at dawn, still warm, still dripping. It was said the milk they held curdled the moment the dark star had first appeared years ago, turning from white to a translucent red, thin as blood, but smelling of nothing at all. The villagers called it Skelmarok's milk, the seepage of the dreaming god. The hillwife gestured to the 8 maids. "Drink." They obeyed. They always obeyed. Each girl lifted an udder to her mouth and bit, rupturing its skin. Red milk poured over their chins, down their throats, splattering their white shifts with a rust-colored constellation. Some gagged, trembling but resolute. Others drank with a grim determination, as though the act affirmed a place in some ancient ledger of loyalty. When the last drop had been consumed, the hillwife raised her arms. "The trough awaits its offering." The villagers fell silent. One of the maids, Hester, the youngest, barely 16, stepped into the trough. She lay down as instructed, folding herself like a child preparing for sleep. The trough's polished interior embraced her with a coldness that stole her breath. The other 7 gathered around its rim. "Begin." They reached down with hands slicked with leftover milk and gripped Hester's limbs. Their eyes had grown glassy, reflective, mirroring the dark star above. The Hillwife's chant rose, a wavering drone whose cadence made the air feel thicker, as though the world was softening at the edges. The 7 maids pulled, gently at first, then with ritualistic vigor. The trough amplified every sound, skin sliding, joints straining, breath stuttering into panic. Hester did not scream. That was part of the binding. No voice must rise on this day, else Skelmarok might hear and open one dreaming eye. But she trembled. Oh, she trembled. The dark star flickered. The villagers bowed deeper, some pressing their foreheads to the frozen earth. As the maids continued their grim labor, red milk seeped from Hester's pores, mingling with sweat and tears she dared not shed. Her ribs began to creak, cracking one by one like twigs under a hunter's boot. The trough greedily collected every drop, its interior swirling with a marbled mixture of milk and blood. When her chest finally collapsed inward, releasing all tension in an abrupt, grotesque sigh, the Hillwife slammed her staff into the earth. Enough. The maids released her. Hester's body lay slack and folded, impossibly small, as though she were being returned to some primordial shape. The Hillwife dipped her hands into the trough, scooping the milk-blood mixture and smearing it in wide arcs across the 7 remaining maids' faces. Thus is the binding strengthened. Thus does Marrowbone endure. Thus does the sleeper remain dreaming, and not rising. Overhead, the dark star blinked, once, slowly, as if in reluctant acknowledgement. The villagers exhaled in unison, a sound like winter wind passing through a field of dry reeds. The rite was complete. But as the crowd dispersed, an unease coiled beneath their ribs. For in the swirling mixture at the bottom of the trough, faint ripples had begun to form, pulsing in a pattern no mortal hand had made. A pattern that resembled the curve of an antler. A pattern that whispered of the nights yet to come.